All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for being patient. My name is Jason Flame, host of the Master Motivation Podcast. And today I have an amazing guest. And I apologize that, again, we took a little bit, we are just trying to get things right. So my volume's up really high so that Mr. Hazan can hear me. But let me introduce our guest. His name is Danny Hazan, who is a native of Israel and started martial arts at the age of 10 with over 46 years of experience in Shotokan Karate, Krav Maga, and Russian wrestling. He currently holds 8 black belts in different styles, a 3rd degree in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, 2nd degree in Judo, 8th degree in Karate, as well as an 8th degree in Krav Maga, and currently owns and operates Hazan Academy in Israel. He's the founder of Authentic Israeli Krav Maga Academy, AIKMA, and Saishokido Way of Fighting. Mr. Hazan served in the Israeli Defense Forces Special Operations for 3.5 years with service during the Lebanon War. After completing his military service, he served as a Krav Maga instructor for special operation units. Currently, Mr. Hazan travels the world sharing his Krav Maga expertise, teaching people to protect themselves and to stay safe. Mr. Hazan, thank you so much for taking the time to be on the show. I know we moved our schedule a couple times. I hope that you had a great time with your family last night.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for hosting me.
Well, I'm amazed to have you here today, and I know that you've done a podcast with Mr. Cox, and guess what? Mr. Cox is on here. Hey, Mr. Cox, if you are still watching, check the link that I sent in the AKMF group, and I'd love to have you join the conversation as well and come on here live with us if you're available. So, Mr. Hazan, you have a vast amount of experience in several martial arts, and I'd love for you just to kind of give us a little bit more background as to growing up as a martial artist and growing up in Israel. Can you talk about that for us?
Yes, first of all, growing up in Israel, you know, it's something in your mentality. It's like obvious when you go to when you reach the age 18, you already go to the army. It's compulsory here in Israel. So even years before, you already in your mentality, you are thinking about the army, you are thinking about protecting your country. So the martial arts or the self-defense mentality it's in you, it's inside you from childhood. So when I started to learn martial arts, my motivation to learn it was to be protected and to protect others and to be a very good fighters if needed, because in Israel a lot of situations of terror and a lot of surprises. You don't know when, you don't know how, you don't know where. And I wanted to be ready. I wanted to be ready for any kind of situation. So I started even in the early age. You think about these kind of things, and I started, but I always wanted more. I always wanted to have more answers to all kind of questions that emerge in the surface when terror is coming. Because if you want to do something against a knife, so you must know something with your hand. If you want to do something if you are on the floor, so you must know ground fighting. So I understand in a very early age that I must combine all kind of martial arts, so I could have more answers for situations that maybe will come in future.
Now, that is something that I, living in the United States, would not quite understand when you talk about the terror and you talk about the violence and you talk about things that you grew up with that I have never seen in my life. Now, of course, you've been here and visited the United States many times. Can you just kind of help us to understand? You talked a little bit about the mentality about growing up, knowing that you would need to learn self-defense and learn how to protect yourself. But I think that maybe in the United States, we're a little bit more sheltered, right? Can you tell us the differences, that you see when you visit us here of what we might see in Israel, having never been there myself, just kind of opening our eyes to that?
You know, the main thing is in the root of the growing up. When a child is growing up in USA and is becoming 18, he have a lot of happiness and ceremony because he's going to college.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so his direction, his way of thinking is about the future, about the college, about his profession, his family, whatever is the dream he have. In Israel, you don't start to dream the things you want to do unless you finish 3 years of army,
Mm-hmm.
because you say, okay, let's finish 3 years serving the army, and then we will be as civilians, and then we can start to think what we want to do. We go
Mm-hmm.
to university, we go to learn, we go to work, and then we start to think about our future. So if you take a 21 years old boy or 18 years old boy, it's a lot of difference. 3 years, lot of difference, lot of maturity that you have in these 3 years. Because
Mm-hmm.
if you take the difference between 3 years in the college or 3 years in the army, you will understand how the maturity, how the mentality is different, because the 21 years old here in Israel is more mature because the things he have done or experienced in the army.
Mm-hmm.
But not only that, he also try also start to think about his future only in 20 year, when he's 21, 22 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the main difference. But if you take a guy or a boy or a child in Israel, and he have bomb from the Lebanon border, or if he have rockets from the Gaza Street, and the noise and all the things together, it's a part of his life. And because it's a part of his life, the behavior and the mentality is different, because he is looking about, he is taking things in perspective different than other young people in the same age all over the world.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, listen, I want to bring on Mr. Cox. He joined in here, and I just think this is an amazing experience and opportunity to have both yourself as the head of AIKMA and the head of the AKMF here on the same show. So I did invite some of the other school owners to be on here as well, but I wanted to get Mr. Cox on here just to see if he had any questions or if he's riding with anybody that might have questions for you, Mr. Hazan, so we could talk about that real quick. So, Mr. Cox, thanks for coming on real quick. Any questions for Mr. Hazan?
Shock.
You must make for shock. I want to know how your TikTok is going.
When you have 500,000 followers, so it's going well.
And I think that is I must watch at least 2 to 3 of your videos every single morning, as I'm scrolling through, videos, and I bring them to my class and I show them to the class and I say, this is who we learn from. This is the top of our food chain, if you will. This is what you're learning. And they look in awe, literally shock and awe, right? Watching the videos. But I'm curious, how have you built up your TikTok following so quickly, so fast? I mean, obviously what you're putting out there is amazing content, but what do you think is the biggest part of your success on that social media site?
I think I don't have really an exact answer for that, but I think I had one or two clips that had so many viewers and so many followers, because there was I think there was difference. For instance, if I will take the clip, I have a clip that have 24 million viewers, or 13 million viewers, because they know the kind of the technique of taking the knife, or like your master says, shock. So people not used to see this kind of thing in Krav Maga, because Krav Maga, the original Krav Maga was staying 20 years, 25 years back.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I always believe and I always feel that I must adapt myself to the situation, to the place I'm here now, not what I was 20 years ago. So when I do all kind of techniques of my AIKMA, of my point of view, my way of life, so people, it's kind of something that's for them it's a shock. It's for them it's a surprise. So they are curious to see what come next.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is what one of the reasons that I have so many followers in TikTok, also so many followers in Instagram, something like
Mm-hmm.
130,000
Right.
followers in Instagram.
Yeah. Hey, Mr. Cox, does Dickie have any questions? I see Dickie sitting next to you.
I have Dickie and Brooks next to me. Yeah, we're going to go pick up vending machines. We're actually driving a U-Haul truck right now. But
That's what it looks like.
I'll tell you this, though, while we have him on the phone, because Coach and I have talked about being older martial artists. The last time we spoke, Danny, Mr. Hazan, we spoke about how I have such an itch to compete and how important it is to be a coach at certain times of your life. Remember us having that conversation?
Yes.
I think we should, while we talk about what that looks like as you get older and the coaching aspect and everything that way, I think that was a powerful thing we spoke about when we talked about it.
I think, about being a coach, there is some things that are very important, but one of them is the most beautiful present that you have as a coach is that you can teach the same thing in a many different ways because your experience, because the year that you are teaching. If you take something that was very hard for you to teach a little child, because he didn't understand and you didn't know how to reach him and to make him understand the technique. So after several years, you will teach the same techniques in a half time and in a more easy way. So the experience that you have will make you a better coach, not because you have more experience, but because you know a different way to teach the same things you have done many years ago. So
Mm-hmm.
this is one of them. The second one, as you get older, your body is not like the same you was when you was young. So you adapt techniques that they need less effort, less movement, but more effectiveness. And if you can do it and you can succeed, so it's something that it's beautiful even if you are young, because if I can teach somebody to do something without effort and it will be effective and short and very explosives, why not? So the idea of getting old as a coach is it's only a present for the students, because you have more experience, you can see things, you can understand things that the students even don't dream about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can give them, on a golden plate whatever they want, because you already know that, you already experience it. So so I think that is the main present that you have as an older coach.
So
Well, I
what
can.
you're saying is I'm the ultimate gift. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I love this discussion so far, and this is great information coming from you that has many years of experience. Mr. Cox also having experience as a coach. I mean, we learn so much more about ourselves when we become a better coach, and we learn better ways to teach people. Not only different ways to teach the same thing, but different ways to teach the same thing to different people, because everybody learns differently. Everybody receives that information differently. Everybody's body is going to be different. So it can't always be a cookie cutter approach, right? And so the experience of being able to cut down that learning curve and be able to explain it in less words, right, I think is helpful too. Because
I
sometimes
think
inexperienced coaches will explain something for an hour when the experienced instructor might give you a sentence and then go to work.
yes, exactly. I also think that the most important things as a coach, it doesn't matter if you are 50, 60, or 80, you will always train, always train and train hard, because it doesn't matter if you cannot demonstrate the technique by doing it with your body. You can show, you can give the techniques by speaking, but you are always an example for your students, not by speaking but doing. So even if you are very, very old and you are trying to do push-ups and you do 3 push-ups and you fall down, but you have done your 200% effort, this is the most beautiful example for your students. Because if a young and strong student will see his very old master trying his best to do whatever he can with his body, he will not think twice before he will give 200% efforts in his training. So you must have an example. You must be an example to your students, not only by sitting on your chair and giving orders, but staying on the mat and demonstrating and teaching and doing and practicing. And it doesn't matter how old are you, because we have there is a very beautiful sentence that say, I hope I will say it right in English: you are not getting old because, just a moment, I will try it again. You are not getting old because you are because you don't practice. You're getting old because you don't practice. I don't know how we call it this sentence, but maybe you know what I mean.
That makes
So
perfect sense.
yeah,
It makes perfect sense.
so the idea is keep on practicing, keep on. My master Joe Morera. Every year he come to my dojo. He came this year to award me my third degree in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, and he told me, Danny, I'm not doing the same things because the students are very athlete, very strong, so I cannot fight with them. They are strong, so I adapt more techniques that are suit for me, and then I can adapt them, and I can deal with the young students with my techniques, because I'm old, so I will try other things to do against them. So the idea is to combine your knowledge, your experience, and your abilities together, because you cannot say something. I always say to my students, I will never teach you something that I didn't experience by myself. So that's the idea of being a very good coach, I think.
Yeah, and we have great examples of instructors. I was going to say, Mr. Cox. I mean, we have great examples because here you are continuing your education after decades of training in other systems, and now here you are advancing in jiu-jitsu. A lot of our other school owners still training, still working out. Let me ask you this, Mr. Son and Mr. Cox, if you want to answer. Because as we get quote unquote older in age, right, in our mind, because this is what messes with us at one point. We look back at the talent that we once had, and we look at the skill that came so easily, so quickly, with little effort, and now we have to work a little harder at it. It's hard to accept. How did you get over that for yourself?
Uh, I I think that the the way I'm thinking about it is not like you describe it, because okay, I cannot move like I moved when I was 30 or 35, but because my mobility is less, my experience is more. So I will do the same, let's say, defense in less effort, less movement, more effective. So you will not see, you will not feel that you are incapable to do something, because you will find the answer how to do it and to succeed, even if you are more old. But you accept the idea that there are things that you cannot do. So I accept the idea that I cannot do this, but I will not give up the idea of doing something so I can succeed. So instead of sitting on the chair and say, okay, I cannot do nothing,
Mm-hmm.
I'm old, I say, okay, what can I do? Not what I can't do.
Hmm.
The idea is always, always, always thinking and saying to yourself, what can you do? Not what you can't do. And
Well,
if
that's
you always, as we say, look at the bright side, so always you will find something to do. Just keep on practice, keep on moving, keep on being with mobility, and you will find a way to do something as long as you keep on practice.
Well, that's the answer right there, is that not focusing on what you can't do. Because I look at things like, when I was a younger kid, I could jump really well. I was a pretty good jumper. I could jump kick, and I love to do jump kicks. But doing jump kicks at almost 50 with worn down knees and back, I don't jump kick as well. But you're right. I think about hitting harder with my hands. Now I've adapted my hands. I've adapted in other ways. So that's a perfect example. And thank you for reminding me that. That's a good lesson. Mr. Cox, any of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think from my standpoint, taking up jujitsu, and for me, I had to come to a place of acceptance that, well, jujitsu is an equalizer anyway, because it doesn't lie. You got one other person that they're trying to choke you, and you're trying to choke them, and it's a one-on-one. And I had to come to the realization that I have trained some than me at this point. You know what I mean? And they're youthful, and they've got my knowledge in a youthful body, and so I had to enjoy the process over trying to think that I have to win every single time. You know what I mean? Not that I don't do that, because I do. I think losing more than I like winning. Okay, so but I had to adapt my mind to enjoy the process and be thankful that at my age that I'm as strong as I am, and that I can still roll pretty hard with these guys. To be honest with you, that I can still do it. So that's
Right.
kind of where I'm at in my own mind. Yeah.
Yeah, at some point, I think that you're right. Acceptance comes into play, and you have to accept certain things. I still look at Mr. Chikawa in the way that he'll still do forms. Still do his forms, his chair push-ups, his bag work, and all his stuff. And he's been doing that for as long as I've been around. So there's just certain things that we're not going to do as well. But like Mr. Hazan said, focusing on the things that we can now do better with more experience. So, Mr. Cox,
You know,
Mr. Cox, I'm gonna
I'm
let you
50.
go real quick.
Okay, bud.
So,
Listen,
Okay.
I appreciate you having me on, Jay. One thing I would talk to Danny about when you guys are doing your stuff, because we joke here at when he comes to the States, how our training's like Starbucks training,
Mm-hmm.
and where he comes from and the intensity that somebody has to train for real life situations, I think would be something good for you guys to touch on. But I sure love you guys, man. I appreciate you having me on a lot. All right. So
Thanks, bud. I appreciate you, Mr. Cox. Thanks for jumping on. Have a great day. I'll see you soon.
all right.
So, Mr. Hazan, why don't we jump into that? And I think that you had a thought real quick. So, if you want to start with that, we'll come back to what Mr. Cox was describing. But you had another thought.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I'm not young. I'm 59, and but I still do things that my students cannot do. I think that when your body is used to do things so many years, it's automatically. So sometimes you do things that you are used to do it, and your student cannot do it because the body is still learning to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some advantage even if we are getting older. Also, in the concerning the body abilities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the level of intensity or the intent of training. As Mr. Cox was talking about, he says that we joke about the Starbucks training here in the United States because people are training for the sake of training, or maybe to do something fun or to do something new. But as you described earlier, training where you're from is quite literally self-defense or really life defense in certain cases, and you just never know when. So talk to me about the different levels of intensity that your students may face that we may not see here in the United States.
I can give you a very nice example that happening now with my students. I have a team. My team is practicing 3 times a day, and now I have 4 students that are preparing to the World Championship in Abu Dhabi in MMA. So they are practicing 4 times a day
Hmm.
with school and with everything together, 4 times a day. So the basic in my club, in my school, is between 4 or 5 practice a week for the students. This is the basic. More than that, it's the team, or if there is any special competition, so we have more practice. And we are not practicing only martial arts, we are practicing also gym, and also mentality situations, also all kind of scenarios, extreme scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
And we do a lot of white night. They are coming at 9 o'clock in the evening, staying until 7 in the morning, practicing Krav Maga. So what I say to my students, I always say to them, you have a lot of medals, you have a lot of trophies. That's fine. That's great. That's beautiful. But the most important trophy is the one that make you come back safe home after party, or after army, or after hitchhiking, or whatever. So I'm always aiming for the self-defense uh, point of view, not only for the fun or for the fitness or for the uh, health, because that's obviously will be there. It's like everything is it's inside, but the the idea of fighting for your life, if necessary, this is the main point that I'm put it like a mirror in front of my students every day, every practice, from childhood till adults, so they will learn to understand that when they will be in the streets and it will be any kind of situation of danger, I want to be sure that they will react exactly as they should react if they are really practicing and doing everything okay in practice.
Mm-hmm. Well, someone just commented that they love the perspective and the mindset, and obviously this comes from a different place in the world, but at the same time, here in the United States, uh, let's face it, there's definitely acts of violence. There's definitely opportunity for let's just say bad people to do bad things, and you know you have people training 4 to 5 times a week and sometimes 3 to 4 times per day, we here in the United States, as you may know, have trouble getting people to come to class regularly 2 to 3 times a week because their mentality and their perspective is it could never happen to me, or it won't ever happen to me, or oh, that will happen somewhere else, instead of taking personal responsibility. And I take a lot of pride in that. We teach self-defense with that mindset to always be prepared and to always be able to go home safe. And yet when we promote that to our community, it kind of falls on deaf ears. You know, they're just not, the same sense of urgency is not there for them. And as Mr. Cox was joking earlier, you know, it's Starbucks training. They go to Starbucks, they come take class, and then they go do something else, right? I just think that it does come from a totally different place.
You know, one of the things that I do when somebody is coming to practice, the first thing I do, I say, why? I ask him why. When he said to, when I get his answer, from his answer, I can see and I can understand what should I say for him after. So if you take, for example, a class in your club or in Mark Cox club, and you start to speak about self-defense, maybe it's something that's very far from them to understand. So they came for the fun, they came for the society, they came for the fitness, they came for the muscles, for the health. But if you will build some scenarios that could happen in USA, and you stick with these scenarios, and you put these scenarios in front of your students every time and again and again and again and again, and you explain them and you show them some videos, then slowly they will start to understand that no one is 100% protected. Doesn't matter where he is living, Israel, USA, whatever other place in the world, because no one can say 100%, yes, I'm sure for me, I'm protected, nothing will happen to me. Because okay, in Israel you have terror, but in USA you have so many gun scenarios, so many kidnap scenarios, so many robberies. So the idea is put the bad things in front of a mirror for your students and believe it in yourself as a coach, believe, and then they will see it in you and they start to believe themselves also. Mm-hmm. So you don't teach the techniques without understanding why. You teach the techniques because you believe this technique could save life, and you must give them an example. Show them, give them an example. You know, I will tell you a little story. I was asked to teach a group of soldiers in the Golan Heights near the Lebanon, near the Syrian border. They asked me to teach them because it was a period of time that in Israel was a lot of weapon kidnap. There was kidnapping, there was stolen weapons from the soldiers. So when I came there, I see all the students, all the soldiers was sitting, playing with the phone, talking each other. No one paid attention to me. So I just came and I saw a soldier in front of me. He was with a weapon, with a stripe, with a weapon on him. It took me something like 1.5 seconds to take the weapon from him, to strangle him with the stripe, and took him to the floor and take the weapon. All the soldier was shocked, and it was silence. From that moment, whatever I was asking from them to do, they did. So I showed them, and I told them, you see, 1.5 seconds I took your weapon. Now you see how many soldiers there is here, how many bullets in the magazine. What could I do with my weapon now? I could kill 20 soldiers. So there was the understanding the extreme idea of the danger, because I showed them,
Mhm.
and they start to believe, and then they start to do, and then they start to practice. So you must, as a coach, you must make them believe the way you want them to to learn, because what you believe in,
Mhm.
and you believe in the self-defense as something that can save life. Show them.
Mhm.
Show them. It doesn't matter if it's in Israel or USA.
Myself, coming from a very traditional background, and for a lack of a better term, there was a lot of self-defense that maybe we did as um, the best way I can explain it is it was almost make believe. Some of what we were doing was not the most realistic, right? It was fun to practice, but maybe not the most realistic. So when I was first introduced to Krav Maga, um, every time I would see something being done or being taught or a scenario, it made me think further. It made me think, oh my gosh, never thought of that. We would do another scenario. Gosh, I don't know what I would do in that situation. And it kept making me think. And that's what really drew me to Krav Maga to continue, is I had been training in martial arts for so long, but I had no idea how to react to certain situations. I had no idea what I would do in that particular scenario. And the more that I was drawn into it and shown that, it's exactly what you were explaining, and so that for me was what made me, you almost, some of my students, as I talk about things, they ask me if I'm paranoid, and I say, no, I'm not paranoid. I'm just very careful. I mean, very simple things as looking for exits, looking for, keeping your eyes on people, watching people's posture, watching where they put their hands, watching, just watching. And before Krav Maga, I don't think that I had that heightened of awareness, right? Because it was out of sight, out of mind. It was never brought to my attention. And now, more and more, the more seminars we do together, the more things that I'm exposed to, it is 100% exactly what you just said. And I hope that I'm doing that for my students. I think that I am, because there are certain classes they look and they have those big eyes. They go, oh wow, because the light bulb went on, and they've now been exposed to something that could happen. Now we have more reason to train, because just in case, it's always just in case. Hope to God we never have to, but just in case, the tools are there.
We always say in special forces, we always say we are practicing 101 times. So sometimes people ask us, why 101? Why not 100? And then we say, because 100 times nothing will happen. 101, something will happen.
Hmm.
So 101 times.
Yeah.
You repeat and repeat and repeat. So the idea is we try to be safe. We try to behave safe. If we leave everything in the side and we just think about being a human being, being a better human being by practicing martial arts, doesn't matter what kind of martial arts, that's enough. That's the present. Being a better human being, because you see so much violence inside the family, so much violence against women. So I don't think there is a lot in the world martial artists that are behaving with violence to other people. It's it's maybe a little, but I cannot call them martial artists.
Hmm.
So the martial arts, as a martial arts, will give you a big present to be a better human being. First of all. So that's the main thing. From this point and on, okay, now the self-defense, now the health, now the calmness for your soul, for your mind, for your body, and whatever. So you can just say to your students, be a better man, be a better woman, be a better child. Respect your parents, respect your master, respect your teacher, your school, respect your friends. Uh, be honest, be honorable. So, be humble. This kind of stuff you learn in martial arts, because you can fight with somebody until you kill him, and then you will do the bow, and then you will do the hug. So that's something that you have in martial arts. You don't have it, let's say, in football or soccer or whatever. So the respect and the values you have as a martial artist are more precious than any other present or money that you will ever get. So this is the main thing. From here, from this basis, start to build the self-defense and the other goals you want to build with your students as a coach.
Yep, absolutely. Well, listen, we're getting ready to wrap things up. I apologize. We're running out of time
It's
today,
okay.
guys. But if anybody is watching live and you have any questions, I know Brandon Kemmer was on here a minute ago. If you have any questions, Brandon, please let me know. Anybody else that's watching live, or if you're watching on a replay and you have questions, I can definitely address those and get those questions to Mr. Hazan. But my last question is, because I know that you are a traditional martial artist at heart. You started in it with a very traditional background. And what we hear, or what at least I'll say I have heard prior to being, heavily involved in Krav Maga, was that Krav Maga was not considered a martial arts and a martial art. I completely disagree. I think that Krav Maga is just as much a martial art as anything else. What are your thoughts when people say that Krav Maga is not a martial art?
It's two answers. When you want to teach Krav Maga for many places in the world, you make it commercial. Commercial, you make it with the belts, with the logo, with the test, with the all kind of shows, competitions. So in this manner, it's a martial arts. But when I speak about Krav Maga, sorry, but I disagree with you. It's not a martial arts for me, because if I take a pen and I stick it to somebody, to his eye, it's not a martial arts. Or if I take my keys and will punch with the keys or whatever, or a stone, it's not a martial arts. It's survivor. It's surviving. You will do whatever it takes to survive. But the tools that you get from the Krav Maga are tools from martial arts, because the founder of Krav Maga was a boxer, was a wrestler, was a judoka. So he took his experience as a martial artist and made the Krav Maga. But he make everybody understand that no rules, only survive, only go home safe. So the difference between other martial arts is that you don't have all the ceremonies that you have in martial arts, in the traditional martial arts, because you just learn how to defend yourself. Because the original Krav Maga in the army, you are doing a very short course, maybe 1 month, maybe 3 months, maybe 5 months, depends on the level of Krav Maga, and that's it. And you can come to this course without any experience at all in other martial arts. So the idea is, first of all, the Krav Maga wasn't something to the civilian. The Krav Maga, the original Krav Maga, was something that was teaching the soldiers with weapon, and with the, I don't know how we call it, all this pouch, you know, of the army, and with the vest. So the original Krav Maga was designed for soldiers, to be more effective in the war. From this point, Krav Maga was developed so fast that it started to interest also civilians, and then they start to do adaptations to the civilians, without weapon, with weapon, all kind of stuff that you don't do them in the army, because in the army you are with your rifle and with your vest and with your helmet and everything, and it's very heavy and you cannot move so fast. So the things you do as a soldier is not the things you do as a civilian in Krav Maga. So it's a big difference. So you cannot say that the Krav Maga for the soldier is a martial arts, because they don't have time to learn martial arts, because martial arts is something that you learn many, many, many years. And Krav Maga, you don't have time. You are a soldier. You have 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to practice very intensive, and then you go to the war with what you have. This is what you have. This is what you got. That's it. So the idea is make as much as effective, as much as in a short period of time. So it's something that not connected with traditional martial arts. That's the idea why always in Krav Maga you are seeking to a technique that will be very, very effective, very in a very short time. Speed, effective, and deadly. So the idea is and also the very most important point, in Krav Maga you don't have a continuing movement. In martial arts, yes. In Krav Maga you must do 100% movements. Let's say here a strike or punch or kick, and that's it, and run away from there. You don't start the fight. You avoid the fight, and then you fight only to the point you can run away from them. You don't develop the fight, because you don't have the skills to develop the fight. You will do a kick to the groins and you run. In martial arts, you will do a kick and then a knee and then an elbow, and then you choke and then you take him to the floor, because you know a lot of skills, a lot of things. In Krav Maga, you don't have time to gain all these kind of skills, because you are a soldier and you have a very short period of time to adapt, to adjust to the things you are doing in the army. So it's not exactly a martial arts. It's a way of fighting that will make you go home safe. No rules. Whatever you can do to go home safe.
Well, I appreciate the education, because that's, definitely opened my eyes a little bit more to looking at it from a different standpoint. But I appreciate you sharing that with me. And I just thank you for your time today. And I look forward to you coming out to the United States. I hear that there's a rumor that you'll be coming out to do a seminar soon. So I look forward to working with you again. And I appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank you very much.
All right. Well, be safe.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy the rest of your week, and happy Passover.
Us. Thank you very much.
And to everybody else, thank you guys for watching. If you're celebrating a happy Passover, also happy Easter coming up on Sunday. And I look forward to seeing everybody on the next show. Make it a great day, guys. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.